5 a.m. I'm up with a crisp Celsius energy drink. Running 12 miles today. Grab a green juice, quick change, and head to work. Meetings, workshops. One more Celsius, no slowing down. Working late, but obviously still meeting the girls for a little dancing. Celsius. Live, fit, go. Grab a cold, refreshing Celsius at your local retailer or locate now at Celsius.com.
Ugh, you said you were over him, but his hoodie is still in your rotation. It's time. Grab your phone, snap a few pics, and sell it on Depop. Listed in minutes with no selling fees. And just like that, a guy 500 miles away just paid full price for your closure. And right on cue.
Hey, still got my hoodie?
Nope, but I've got tonight's dinner paid for. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste. List now with no selling fees. Payment processing fees and boosting fees still apply. See website for details.
Hey, speed freaks, assholes, and creeps. This week, we're doing things a little bit different on Chris DeMakes A Podcast. I, Chris Fafalios, will be sitting in the host seat so I can pry into the mind of our usual host, Chris DeMakes, to see what was running through it back when Less Than Jake wrote and recorded the fan-favorite song, Scott Farcas Takes It on the Chin, from their 1998 album, Hello Rockview. As a young member of the LTJ Street Team, I was of course familiar with this song long before it was released to the masses on a major label album. I spun it on my parents' record player in the basement, and it hit me right in the feels then, just like it does today. So what were Chris and the guys feeling when they tracked this one several decades ago? And why did they bury it so deep on the album? I have so many questions about this song, as it remains my favorite Less Than Jake song to this day. And I'm in good company with that opinion, as it was also Chris's father's favorite. Pretty cool. This is the final installment in our series of episodes leading up to Less Than Jake's UK Winter Circus tour with the Bouncing Souls, the Aquabats, and the Barstool Preachers. So sit back, relax, and let Chris and I take you back to that same old song from years ago. This is a good one.
Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes A Podcast. 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 All right, Chris, this is probably the least prepared I've ever been for a Chris DeMakes A Podcast episode because you're full host right now. You did the intro, and I'm your guest. So I want you to hit me. I didn't prepare. I didn't even listen to the song, Chris.
Wow. You know, we did this once before. I think it was in our first year of ever doing this show. We did an episode about Johnny Quest where I played the host and you played the guest. But today we were talking about what Less Than Jake song should we do? Were you surprised that I chose Scott Farcas Takes It on the Chin?
I wasn't surprised. That's a favorite amongst a lot of Less Than Jake fans. As you know, is my dad's favorite song.
Right.
But yeah, it's not surprising at all. No.
Well, maybe it was surprising to you at the time of recording Hello Rockview because you guys buried this song at track 13 out of 14 songs on the album. Why is it so buried? I don't know if it's everyone's favorite song. It's my favorite Less Than Jake song. Why is it track 13?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think maybe we had a case of, the song's kind of old, which is ridiculous because the song had been recorded previously. We did a 7-inch and we did a re-recording of Cheese as well. And it's interesting that is Cheese and Farcas right next to each other on the record?
No.
They're separated.
Oh, no. On the record. I thought you meant on the 7-inch. On the album, yes, Cheese is track 12. So at track 12, you put I'm not saying it's like, I don't know, would you call Cheese kind of like a Less Than Jake novelty song in a way? It's kind of like it's a funny song.
Yeah, it's a novelty song. It's a B-side.
Okay, you put that ahead of this song. But then you rounded out Hello Rockview with what is probably the most emotional song on the album, Owl's War. So you kind of brought it back around again. But I do want to go back a little bit, Chris, because you mentioned, I don't know if this is what you meant, but I had the 7-inch split with the band J Church. That's a band, right? Not a person, J Church.
That's right. J Church was led by a wonderful guy named Lance Hahn. Lance is no longer with us. He passed away some years ago. But Lance started out in a band called Cringer, and he was the singer for that band. And then he formed J Church, and everyone within the punk circles back in the 90s kind of knew who Lance was. He was a Bay Area fixture.
Okay. So you had this split 7-inch. I didn't know who J Church was at the time. But on your side of this record, you had your original version of Scott Farcas Takes It on the Chin, and your other song on this record is a cover song called Descant?
Yes.
From a band called Spoke, who were a No Idea Records band, right?
That's right. And now you jarred my memory. So I was thinking that Cheese was on a split with Farcas. It wasn't. It was this song. Spoke was a band from Gainesville, Florida, dear friends of ours, and they had a number of great songs, but this was one in particular that we loved and we covered. I now recall that Cheese went to its own 7-inch, which was a piece of cheese, basically. It was a plastic molded into the shape of a piece of cheese. So, yeah, again, yes, you did host when we broke down Johnny Quest Thinks We're Sellers. I think that was season 1, right?
Yeah, that was back in our first year, yeah.
First year. But I was still kind of in host mode for that. But I was kind of like preparing and still wanting to be a safety net for you. But this is no safety net today.
Okay, well, I want to talk about this 7-inch original version with you for a second. It came out on Deadbeat Records. This is the only thing I ever knew that came out on Deadbeat Records. It had your side of the 7-inch had Charlie Brown on the pitcher's mound looking sad. And I think I either asked you or Vinny, I was like, how did you get away with putting Charlie Brown on the cover of that? And one of you, I mean, it was probably Vinny, said, as long as you do like under 500 of something, you're fine. No one's going to come after you.
Well, that's debatable, but okay.
Yeah, but this 7-inch is where I remember falling in love with this song. My parents, I was, a teenager, and we had an old record player, like a console record player, like it was like a piece of furniture that I would listen to records on in the basement. And there was something magical about this song to me, something that just like pulled on my heartstrings. I was, one of you, I don't want to brag. I feel like I was one of the biggest Less Than Jake fans there was. And, I was listening to that version in preparation for this. I did not listen to music the way I do now. I was able to just see past the recording quality and the individual aspects of the song and just feel it as a whole thing, because like when I listen to that version, I'm like, okay, the drums don't sound that great. And, the guitar compared to the Hello Rockview version is obviously like a lot thinner and, and your vocal performance, it's a lot rougher than it is on Hello Rockview. But there was something magical about this song to me.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, and thanks for being a fan. I think that, when we made Rockview, we were listening to, not just ska and punk. We were really touring with a lot of bands that you would call emo. And I feel like, this is a ska punk song, but there's something melancholy to it. It's upbeat. The horns are kind of chirpy and happy, but there's this, what I would call tugging at your heartstrings, you said, that emotional thing that, I think ska can be emotional, certainly, but this is a different type of emotion that I think you're speaking of.
Yeah, there's just something really special about this song. I feel like my friends felt the same way about this song. And when I saw you guys doing the Hello Rockview tour when you played Pittsburgh, man, I don't know. I guess maybe I just forgot what songs were going to be coming up, and it was hot as hell at Mr. Smalls in Pittsburgh. It was so hot in that room. But, you're getting towards the end of the album, and then you guys started playing this, and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot that this song is on this album or something. And I was just overwhelmed with such a happy feeling when you guys played this.
Did you like the Rockview version better when you heard it? Because you heard the original version first, correct?
Yeah, I think that it's so funny how obviously better the Rockview version is, but we're going to get to it. You guys changed something about the song.
Sure.
Now when I look back on it, it's so minor, like what you changed, but I feel like there was part of me, it's like, oh, why'd they change that?
Yeah. I'll answer that when we get to that later. I think
Right.
I have an answer. But to backtrack real quick, Chris, we were talking about why it was buried on the record, and I think that this and Cheese were put later, just due to the fact that we had recorded them a year prior, a year and a half, whatever it was. It was a short time frame. Of course, there was no internet. How many people heard this? If we certainly kept it under 500, then we're going to say under 500 people, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think we were excited about the new songs on Rockview, and if I can speak for myself, I've always done the track listings for the records. So I think I buried it because I didn't really want it on the record, Rockview. We had already recorded it, and I felt that the two songs that weren't completed on Rockview was a song called Danny Says, and it was Scott Farcas. If you listen to Farcas, and I know we're going to get into the nuances here and the instrumentation in a minute, but if you listen to it, it's very bare bones. There's no octave guitars. There's nothing there. And I think that that's what makes it special. It's hard to go back to that type of thinking of how we made records then. And I've talked to you about this before with Punchline. I know you can relate to this. It's kind of like, you turn the cucumber into a pickle, and there's no going back to the cucumber. There's no going back to like, this is just going to be one guitar. This is going to be one vocal. We're not going to overthink this.
Right. Yeah. And we're going to get to that because there's things about this song where I'm like, oh my God, I never noticed. I think we're much along the lines of when we did the Huey Lewis episode. And he's like, that's interesting. I never thought about that before. There's things like that in this song. And I will get to it. But before we do that, I do want to say this song came out on Hello Rockview, which was released on October 6th of 1998. It was produced by Howard Benson, released on Capitol Records, engineered by Steve Kravac. Ronnie Cates was the assistant engineer, and Chris Lord Alge mixed it. Did he mix the whole album or just the singles or what?
No, Chris did the whole record. And,
Okay.
Ronnie Cates, Bob McPeak was the in-house engineer at Mirror Image Studio in Gainesville. And Bob recorded Losing Streak with us. He helped engineer that record, and Bob produced and recorded all of Pezcore. Okay. But Bob was in like a transition of selling the studio, or he still owned it, but he was wanting to do different things. And Ronnie came aboard probably around 96 or 97, probably 97. And we recorded, to my best memory, we recorded Cheese and Farcas during the sessions with Ronnie Cates, not Bob, on the original versions.
Okay, gotcha. So Ronnie ended up being the assistant engineer on here. And Chris, I saw what was listed online, but I also have, I have the box set of Hello Rockview where he did all the 7 inches. I think I might have got that at Hot Topic back in the day. And I also have the double vinyl version of Hello Rockview. So I went in there to like double check lyrics and things.
Okay. I thought you were going to say you researched who Ronnie Cates was.
Oh no, I didn't go past just
okay. Well, Ronnie was the bass player in the late 80s, early 90s for the Christian rock band Petra. I don't know if you remember them.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, Petra was kind of like below Striper, in terms of
Okay.
popularity. But Ronnie played with those guys, and I haven't talked to him in a while. But if you're listening for some reason, Ronnie, hello, I love you.
I'm sure Ronnie's listening. The lineup at this point, when you recorded Hello Rockview, was you on vocals and guitar, Rogers on vocals and bass, Vinny on the drums, Buddy on trombone, Pete Anna also on trombone, and Darren Neufer on saxophone. So you were a 6-piece when you recorded this.
That's right. When we did Rockview, we were a 6-piece. Pete had joined, top of January '98. Pete joined the band, and we recorded the record in May.
Okay, gotcha. The version on Hello Rockview is 2 minutes and 34 seconds long. The original version is 2 minutes and 47 seconds long. So you cut 14 seconds out of the song. You cut a little fat. And I don't know if we should call it fat or not. We'll talk about it when we get to it.
Right.
I don't know if you saw this. We talk about this website once in a while, but Loudwire called Hello Rockview number 40 on its list of the top 50 pop punk albums of all time.
Oh, wow.
And,
Okay.
And one more thing I want to talk about before we get into the nuts and bolts of the song. The song is called Scott Farcas Takes It on the Chin. First of all, you guys were the kings. I feel like you opened the door for like Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco and stuff for naming the song something that has nothing to do with the song. But also, I'm sure you know this, Scott Farcas, the character from A Christmas Story, isn't actually Scott Farcas. It's actually Scut Farcas, S-C-U-T.
I know, which is hilarious that we put Charlie Brown, which is arguably a way bigger known figure in the world than Scott Farcas. So we're going to change the name of Scott Farcas because we're worried about Warner Brothers or whoever put the movie out. Yeah, that was why.
Oh.
But it wasn't someone from Capitol Records saying this. Even on the original version, we had changed it. So, and Vinny knew it was Scott for sure. Okay. And what a weird title. You know, that was one of our favorite movies. We'd watch it. Definitely one of Vinny's favorite movies growing up. And he just had this great way of being the underdog.
Yeah.
Okay, in life, and then taking this title of this bully, and this bully getting beat up in the movie. Like, I'll show you. It was the punk underdog aesthetic. And yes, I will take this to my grave, no pun intended, Fall Out Boy, that you and many other bands definitely borrowed from long Less Than Jake titles a la Vinny. So Tip of the hat to Vinny and to all those bands.
Absolutely. And now that you say that, isn't that one of the most punk rock moments in a movie ever when Ralphie finally snaps and beats Scott's ass? That's so awesome.
Yeah, you who can't relate to that in life? You finally had it, Chris.
Yeah. And don't you love in the movie, too, that his mom, he's like so scared of being punished, and his mom is like kind of cool about it and just makes not a big deal to the dad. Doesn't it make you love the mom in the movie, too?
It makes me love everything. It made me want to go to the bus stop and fight the next day. And I wasn't even angry with anybody.
It's so good. So good. So I think that in its own way, the fact that the song is called this is so evocative. And as we dive into these lyrics, now I do know these are Vinny lyrics, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
These are Vinny's words. And again, 90% of his lyrics, I have my own interpretation of them.
Right.
He really wrote from a interesting perspective, and again, a lot of guys picked up, I think, on Vinny's thing. I know Pete Wentz loved Vinny's lyrics. I know a lot of the guys that came after that were signed to Fuel by Ramen, Panic, a lot of these bands. But yeah, Vinny wrote the lyrics with this one. There's only 2 chord progressions in the whole song. And again, this song, when I play it to this day, I have to forget that I feel that it's elementary. That is arbitrary to the point. It doesn't matter what I think of the song. It doesn't matter. I've heard other artists say this before, that it belongs to the fans at some point.
Yeah.
And you have to be grateful that you were given this song to begin with to share with people, and people actually care about it. We've talked about that when bands don't want to play their hit song. It's like, I don't get that.
Just because Vinny put pen to paper with the lyrics on this doesn't mean, I'm always impressed with the way I would have never known that you hadn't just picked up a guitar, because when someone hands you lyrics and is like, I want these to be the lyrics, sometimes I can hear it in certain bands. I've talked about this before. You can hear like I'm forcing these lyrics into a melody. I feel like you and Roger do such an amazing job of not having it feel that way, that vocals are forced, that vocals are stuffed into a melody. And these feel so natural. And I also think that like, just because maybe Vinny took pen to paper with these lyrics, that you can't take away a meaning from these lyrics as well. Or I don't know. Did you and Vinny ever talk about that? Would you talk about like, oh, what does this lyric mean?
Yes and no. There were times that it was a complete understood of what the lyrics were about. I mean, go look at Escape from the A-Bomb House. I mean, it's obvious what that was about. But there was other stuff that I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
It wasn't my space, wasn't my spot to ask. And I would stay away from it. And other stuff was like, wow, this is really curious. What is this about? And he would just dive into it. I know what Doug Hastings is about. I know where in the hell is Mike Sinkovich about. I know what Liquor Store is about. But there's some songs that they're kind of like, what exactly was he talking about here? And that's the great mystery that we love about songwriting.
I'm glad you said that word. I was going to say that is like sometimes mystery is half the magic, and being able to take your own. Sometimes when someone says what a song is about, specifically, you're like, oh man, I thought it was about something else. It might affect the way you feel about the music. I always remember Pearl Jam at some point stopped making music videos, I think in like the late 90s or something, because they didn't want people to have that picture in their head. They wanted people to have their own thoughts in their head. When you hear the song Jeremy, I don't know if you do, but I think of that shirtless kid in the music. I think about the music video, And
yeah.
I just think that's interesting. But
I think that real quick, you talked about music videos, and that was the great thing about music videos is a lot of times it had nothing to do with the song, which would again take your brain somewhere else, putting a visual to a track.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Chris, I think it's time we get into this bad boy. This song starts with, man, I divided it up into two intros. It's all one big intro, but it's funny. Our band did it too. Lots of bands did these like very involved intros in songs. And then eventually we got to a point, and I know you in certain songs did too. Sometimes you just start straight up like, oh, we better start right away. Vocals right off the top. She's going to break soon. Songs like that. It's like you realize you did these big intros. But this one starts with a fast-paced drum beat. And when the snare fill happens, you get back on the original demo, it was kind of chickas with the fill. On this, you get a giant pick slide. And my first question for you is, are those multiple pick slides stacked on top of each other?
They are.
Yeah.
They were multiple pick slides. And I can't remember if we did them with picks or if we had graduated to credit cards. At some point, Roger took old credit cards, and he would, because they were much thicker, and they just gave you a bigger sonic sound coming off the strings. So, but yeah, I remember doing a couple pick slide tracks for that.
I swear I can remember like when I heard the Hello Rockview version because I already knew the song, loved the song, and I heard that pick slide into it is like, whoa, here we go. This is like a whole new ball game. And after that giant pick slide with the fill, the horns really take over the melody. And I have to ask, I think you've said that your horn players in the band do write their own horn parts. I was going to ask, who came up with this horn melody? Did the horn players come up with it? Was it written on guitar and then do you ever do that? Do you ever write a part on guitar that then gets translated to horns?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but a lot of times when you do that, you run into issues of, the trombone especially, that he's got to get a breath sometimes.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, and it becomes tricky with certain guitar parts. And there's times when I was convinced, this is going to be a great horn part. It just does not translate. But if I were to guess, we were messing around with this at rehearsal, and Buddy's in the corner, and he just came up with something. And when we started messing around with it, and then Darren probably interjected, and Pete Anna wasn't around for this writing session. This would have just been Darren and Buddy at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, Pete recorded the Hello Rockview version, but he wouldn't have written any parts on the original version. And I don't think the horns really changed too much from the original to the Rockview version.
No, they really didn't. I paid close attention to that. They are pretty established in this song, and they're very interesting. And I know there are 3 horn players playing on this, but my ears have a hard time differentiating the horn parts.
Well, and that was an issue with Howard. Howard was aggravated that we had two trombone players because, especially, he felt that two of the same instruments, and it wasn't like one was a valve trombone. They were both slide trombones, and even though they were sometimes doing harmonies, there was chorusy phasing type things, and Howard was kind of aggravated with that. Of course, we used double trombones on Borders and Boundaries. And the horns on that record sound great. Rockview, and I know a lot of people listening have heard me say this, but that was one of the first Pro Tool records. So It was really compressed, really Pro Tool. The horns got squashed, like a bug. So it's a little difficult for me to listen to the horns on Rockview, but the parts are there.
Yeah, the parts are what's important. The horns are way out in front in this part, but you can also hear in this intro Roger's bass, his signature bass tone, peeking through this. But I will note your guitar gets a little lost in the mix at this part because there's just no room for it yet.
No, and when you're live, what's important? Yes, we're a guitar band, but man, you want to hear that kick, that snare, you want to hear that bass, and you want to hear those horns. Yeah, the guitars are there, but that's the horn feature there, and we knew it.
Well, when it comes to dynamics, though, Chris, I say that your guitar, the first 17 seconds of this intro, your guitar gets lost in the mix, but then at 18 seconds, the second part of the intro, now you hear that guitar loud and clear because it cuts out to just guitar, stereo guitar with, I gotta say, man, a very unique tone. How did you settle on that very recognizable guitar tone that I was trying to compare it to something, and I don't know if you had references at this time, something you were trying to achieve with the way your guitar sounds, but it sounds awesome, and I don't know what to compare it to. How did you arrive at that guitar tone?
Yeah, I want to say that was a Fender Twin, and we had some kind of distortion or something on it. I didn't want it to be ultra clean. I wanted it to have the integrity, the same feeling when the distortion, the dirty guitars hit. It just felt like a bigger version of the verses. I was kind of going for, a little dirtier Op Ivy versus the special, something super chirpy.
That's a good call. I didn't think, it is like a more current Op Ivy sound. That's cool. On the original 7-inch version, the guitar just stays on the left side of the mix, and it was way quieter and less crunchy. And now it's in stereo, and it's this bold sound. It's really cool. After one time through that riff, you get the big hits, and one time through the horn melody again. And on the first two hits, the bass sort of does it like staccato, doesn't ring out, but on the third and fourth hits, Roger lets it ring out, and that leads into verse 1.
Absolutely. And I have no idea what the songwriting splits are on this song. I know Vinny wrote the lyrics. This is definitely one of my songs. I just know, I remember writing it. It's only 2 chord progressions. They're totally my feel and my style. But let's not forget what Roger's doing here and what the horns are doing. Roger's playing a whole song underneath the song. So everybody's equally important here, no matter who came to the table with the chords. And I say that because as rudimentary as this song is for me, and easy as it is for me to play, again, that doesn't matter. There's people like yourself and fans that love this tune because there is a lot going on.
How things are right now, it feels like, it all feels like some kind of circus show. And how this town, it keeps you pinned down, the same old song from years ago. I know this place.
When I think of how things are right now, it feels like, it all feels like some kind of circus show. And how this town, it keeps you pinned down to the same old song from years ago. Now, Chris, this is like classic Less Than Jake subject matter. This is, you're in your town, you feel stuck. What I interpret from this song, these lyrics, is the theme of being held down by the town you're in. I guess my first question to you is, why is that a prevalent theme for Less Than Jake? Is it because in Florida towns, or was it just like the United States in general, wherever you were felt inescapable? And do people in small towns still feel that way?
Great questions. I don't really know. I think that there was I'll use the word mystery again. There was a mystery of being young, being 19, being 20, and exploring, the downtown and experiencing and noticing the cliques, noticing the punks, and, then across the street from the punk club, there was the club that was hosting the sorority function or something. There was just this melting pot of all this craziness going on. And we were immersed in that, and we were witnessing that. And going back to that whole underdog thing, and that's what punk rock was about. That mixed with the title of this song is what I think makes it unique and special.
It's interesting, History of a Boring Town, or here, what you're singing about, is that you guys were in Gainesville, which from your stories and just knowing how big of a college town is, it sounds like anything but a boring town. It sounds like a very exciting town.
Yeah, it can be. It's a small little North Florida town with a university, and without the university, it's kind of like a quiet little town. You go there over the Thanksgiving or Christmas holidays. It's a ghost town because the students all leave.
I guess that's true. Yeah, that's how college towns work. Another question I had lyrically, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but you say to the same old song from years ago. By same old song, do you just mean like the same old story?
Yeah, same old. I always took it as that's a same old song and dance, same old tired story.
Right, going through the motions, boredom, not following your dreams. Because my question was going to be do you mean literally some song from the time? Or
well, and by this time we were noticing by hanging out in the clubs and the bars, it was like, okay, this is the same guy that was complaining 3 years ago at this old job. Now he's at the new job, and he can't save any money because he's drinking himself to death every night. And so You're starting to see these patterns, and basically all that is life. And we were starting to experience life.
Same old song and dance. Okay, not a specific song that you were hearing all the time.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah. This first verse, what I said about it was Roger's lead bass kind of takes over the music in this first verse. The tone is, as you would say, ripping, and it's definitely a signature part of the Less Than Jake sound. I was watching live videos, and it's funny watching Roger play bass because a lot of times, if you were from far away, it looks like he's playing a guitar, the way he plays bass.
Yeah, and we've had producers before that have kind of tried to, step on, oh, yeah, it's too busy, it's too that. It's like, well, that's kind of what we're about. So if you kind of have to work with the guy on that a little bit.
Don't clip Roger's wings. Let him cook. Let him cook.
There, he knows when to back off.
And as a good compliment to that, Chris, I feel like Vinny's drums are very straightforward, which they kind of have to be. You couldn't be getting showy on the drums with what's going on with the bass here. Somebody has to hold it down here. And plus, there's horn accompaniment scattered throughout this verse. So you really gotta pick your spots with the other instruments.
Yeah, we were all trying to be heard. When you're in a band, you're all trying to be heard. I've often said this, when you get a mix back from your band, you're not listening to the song at first. You're listening to your bass parts and how they interact with the song. I'm listening sometimes to my guitar, mostly I'm listening to my vocal. Is this vocal good? Is it hitting me the right way? So, hearing a mix back a lot of times, especially when you're in a band like Less Than Jake, you have to try to listen to everything. And I think that's, you touched on a moment ago, why the drums were always just kind of rudimentary and just kind of providing a backbeat, because there was so much going on. You got crazy drum fills and all this going on. There's no place for it.
Oh no, you could not have Travis Barker back there ripping it up on it. Would just, you would lose the song. You'd just be like, what is this? This is a cacophony.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get a little horn melody after the line feels like. You get another one after the line circus show. This time the sax kind of holds out for a while. I noticed that in both verses. And it's kind of like a little call and response between the vocals and the horns. Mm-hmm. And they're all throughout here sporadically to accentuate the song. I'm assuming the vocals are doubled?
Yeah, they would have been doubled.
Okay.
Definitely would have been doubled in the choruses, although this doesn't have a chorus that like lifts. All of a sudden, this is the chorus. I mean, there is a chorus, I know this place will chew you up, but yeah, I think probably the whole lead vocals doubled.
Well, your performance is dramatically better than the original performance. Not that I don't like the raw, young punk performance. Obviously, I loved it. But
yeah.
Can you talk for a minute about how Howard got this performance out of you? Because like you said, you'd only recorded this like a year or a year and a half beforehand. But do you remember, I don't know if you remember tracking this song in particular, but just in general, how Howard got it out of you?
Well, yeah, he got it out of me because I wasn't thinking about it. And that's the genius of not only a great producer, but the technology that we were starting to use with Rockview. So prior to this, I was punching vocals in. It's like, we almost got the first verse. We just need the back half of it. Let's just get another take. Let's get another take. And you'd be in there forever trying to get takes. Well, when we came to Hello Rockview and we were now recording to Pro Tools, you were able to just do multiple takes. Sing it again. Okay. Right. It wasn't so much like, we got to get this one part. There would be times we have to work on this section. Can you go to this note? And we'd do that. But Chris, I was singing 3-4 takes and then we were moving on to a chorus. He would already hear that he had it.
Yeah.
Because he was going to comp it. Okay. I was so confused. I had never worked digitally in Pro Tools before, so it was all new to us. So we would come in every day, and I think you've heard me say this, but we would come in and I would be like, Howard would be like, hey, listen to this. He was chopping stuff on the computer. He was adding Rogers harmonies in, and I'm going, oh my gosh. It turned into this like, concerto.
Right. For anyone listening who, we've talked about this before, obviously 300 some episodes in here, but comping, when Chris says comping, what that is the producer or engineer you could seriously have 20 vocal tracks if you want. And sometimes you're getting so specific that you're taking one word from a take and then, or one line, and you're getting the best words, lines from several different takes and combining them into one perfect, or however you want it to be, take.
Yeah. And so the vocals still had a little bit of my young ragtagness to them. Is ragtagness a word? Had a little rough around the edges, but I was going for it. And you can hear that. And I was going for it because I just wanted to get it right. But I didn't really at some point know what I was even going for because it was going into the computer. And I wasn't hearing anything coming back till he had a vocal put together. So it was all new territory for us.
Civilized until the cake runs dry.
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more to talk about with this Less Than Jake classic after a few words from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with the Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
Hey everyone, Chris DeMakes here, and I've got some exciting news. Chris DeMakes A Podcast is now on Patreon. Your support is what keeps this show going, allowing us to bring you deep dives into amazing songs from incredible artists every week. When you join our Patreon at chrisdemakes.com, you'll get instant access to hundreds of episodes of The After Party, our weekly bonus show where producer Chris Fafalios and I talk music history, trivia, tour stories, classic albums, and whatever else comes to mind. Plus, you'll get early ad-free episodes of Chris DeMakes A Podcast, unedited video versions of each episode, and, of course, a brand new episode of The After Party every single week. If our show brings you a little joy, help us keep it going strong for just a couple bucks a month at chrisdemakes.com. Not ready to commit? No problem. You can sign up for a free membership while you decide. Thanks so much, everyone, and I hope to see you all at The After Party.
Always drunk and going crazy. Always drunk going crazy. You better.
And now, back to the show. I watched a bunch of live performances of this song, and there are these harmonies that Roger does in the song. Like live, Roger does a harmony on Same Old Song from years ago, and it sounds awesome.
Same old song from years ago.
It sounds great. It sounds like it's meant to be. It is not on this recording. That's fascinating to me how that did not, like, that almost seems like natural that Roger would do that. Why is there such a lack of harmonies on this song?
We were recording so fast, and this wasn't looked at as a possible single. That's all. You know, it was kind of, we didn't get to it. We were working so fast. Danny Says has hardly anything to it. Okay, that was the one song I feel is really, really naked on Hello Rockview. But you know, we were concentrating on History of a Boring Town. We were concentrating on Metalheads. We were concentrating on Help Save the Youth of America, thinking that you know, this could be maybe a radio single or something. And Farcas wasn't on that list. And again, I think that it was due to the fact that we had already recorded it and it was kind of over here. And you know, I can't really recall what Howard thought of this song. I don't think that it was one of his favorites, though.
Gotcha. Well, Chris, at 40 seconds in the song, we get into chorus 1. And it's interesting to me, Chris, because I was questioning. I'm like, wait a second. Is this the chorus? I was about to write pre-chorus in the way that it feels. And I mean, let me start by asking you, do you consider this the chorus right here? I know this place will chew you up. Do you consider this the chorus?
If it's not the chorus, it's just the B part to the verse. You know, I mean, yeah, this is the chorus of the song. It's verse, chorus. We have the bass breakdown, and then it goes into the outro, which is basically this.
I almost questioned for a second, Chris, if this part was the pre-chorus and that what I would call the re-intro, the horn melody, was actually the chorus of the song, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to look at it. However, I don't think I've ever heard of a song, maybe an instrumental, that the chorus wasn't words and vocals.
Okay, well, we'll go with that. Chorus 1.
I know this place will cheer you up, then spit you out before you go. And when they drag you, kicking and screaming from the scene, you know that it's time to leave.
I know this place will chew you up, then spit you out before you go. And when they drag you, kicking and screaming from the scene, you know that it's time to leave.
Yeah, so that goes to the movie.
Exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I mean, it's time for you to go, kid. I just socked you in the nose. I just deflated the bully. I had enough. He's the protagonist. Wait, the antagonist? Which one?
Scott would be the antagonist.
He's the antagonist. I'm the protagonist, and I just sent him packing. I just sent him home.
So in essence, is the song saying that eventually you won't be able to take it anymore in this town, and something will be the thing that makes you snap and have to get out of this place that's dragging you down? Is that what we're getting at?
Yeah, it's escaping that suffocation of life. It's escaping that feeling of I'm tired of being oppressed, but whether it be from the man, from the teachers at school, from my boss at the crappy job I'm working, to the sound guy at the club who, is ripping us off, to, the whole thing kind of went together. And remember, we were writing so quickly during this period. You remember the early Punchline days. We'd go to rehearsal and we'd write a song and we'd go record it like that following weekend.
Right. This chorus, what we're calling the chorus here, this is where I feel like the magic of the song really starts to take over. The drums go to halftime. The horns are kind of drawn out. And I got to say, this is probably the least musical way to explain this. But when this part hits, I feel like you're floating through the first half of it. Something about the way the music feels and the horns are coming in. It's something that just it just makes me feel like I'm floating. Like before I even could explain it, that's what it made me feel like.
Well, and something that we've never really done. We cut to, you mentioned the drums go to halftime, but we cut to halftime on the guitar. It kind of goes to reggae. Jink, dink, dink, dink on the back half of the choruses, which, really does something rhythmically different against the band.
Yeah. And then the second half of this starting on And When They Drag You, we're getting more of like I wouldn't necessarily, reggae might be a good way to put it. It's kind of like, the way I put it is like, it has sort of a pick it up feel to it, And then the build up starts on the line Seen which leads to a big snare roll fill. And then just 3 kick drum hits over the Then It's Time to Leave, which I say is the payoff line.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I say that it's time to leave.
Time to leave. That's what I meant to say.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you pulled up lyrics that said then, because as we know, not all lyrics online are right, Chris.
No.
Even in record liner notes, they're not right. Which I've learned lately, going back through old Less Than Jake records and having to clean those up. Ugh.
Oh yeah. That it's time to leave. And once again, Chris, it's interesting. I watched all these live videos of you. Roger does such an obvious harmony with you there that sounds so good live, and you guys didn't do it on the recording. That's just so interesting to me. It's so interesting to me that like when you were recording, Roger wasn't like, what do you mean we have to do this harmony here? That it just didn't happen.
We just were young. We didn't know. And Howard had everything locked in a computer. Mm-hmm. A lot of this we didn't even know till like we got it back mixed. There was stuff that I remember hearing and being like, where was that buried? It was on some track over here that Chris Lord-Alge found and threw a fader up.
Right. So after what I'm calling the payoff line, we go back to a re-intro where we get big hits on the end where the horns continue the melody through the hits. And we head into verse 2.
It's time to leave. When I think about this town, right now it's filled with speed freaks and assholes and all kinds of creeps, and somehow every new face in every single case in a year or two will be erased. Yeah, now this place.
When I think about this town, right now it's filled with speed freaks and assholes and all kinds of creeps, and somehow every new face in every single case in a year or two will be erased. And man, that speed freaks and assholes and all kinds of creeps line is just so, I don't know. I could just, when you say speed freaks, I picture a person. Assholes, I picture people. Creeps, I picture people. And it's so visual. And it's such a standout line in this song.
I mean, where were we hanging out? I mean, the past 5 years, we were hanging around in downtown crappy areas where the punk clubs were at. And that's what we were seeing. That's what we were witnessing. We were witnessing people from all walks of life, but a lot of it was bad people, speed freaks, and not that, everyone on drugs is necessarily bad, but assholes are bad people, and creeps are most of the time bad people.
Yeah, I would say, I don't think I've ever called someone a creep and meant it in a good way.
Well, I don't even mean a good way. A creep can be creepy and not be dangerous, but
Yeah.
Sometimes they can be dangerous.
True. I got to call you out on something here, Chris. Speaking of the beautiful layout of that Hello Rockview re-release that I got a copy of. The lyric, you definitely say, when I think about this town on the recording. In your layout, you put when I think of this town.
Ah, that was a typo. Yeah, when I think about this town.
Sorry to call you out on that.
Yeah.
The when I of the second verse starts in the gap between the second hit and the actual start of the second verse music. All the music kicks in on the word think. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is something that was just an accident. That's something now that Roger or a producer might say, no, come in on the downbeat, and we weren't thinking. And again, I think that's what's beautiful about a lot of those early songs from not just my band, but any band. It was just coming from a different place. You weren't thinking about it. It was just, no one was critiquing your part. They were still critiquing their own parts. And that critiquing other people's parts really came later.
Yeah. Musically, this is very similar to verse 1 in the way the horns interplay. I think they play like the same things. I was trying to notice if there was differences, that there really wasn't. But hey, I wouldn't have noticed that, especially I'm so tuned in to the vocals in this part, those lyrics that just grab me, and I think it's great. Nothing really needed to change here.
Yeah.
Before we head into chorus 2.
This place will chew you up, then spit you out before you go. And when they drag you, kicking and screaming from the scene, that it's time to leave.
I know this place will chew you up, then spit you out before you go. And when they drag you, kicking and screaming from the scene, that it's time to leave. Very similar to chorus 1.
Yeah, and I always liked that line, that it's time to leave. We knew it was time to leave. And that came, when I sang that lyric, I always thought of it from two perspectives. From the perspective of like, I've had it, I've outgrown my welcome, I've outstayed my welcome in this town or whatever in life, and I need to leave and go over here. But I've also felt it from the standpoint of, I'm planted here, but I'm looking at you. It's time for you to leave and for you to get out of this town.
Yeah, that's interesting. And after this, we head into another re-intro, but this time at the end of the re-intro, it isn't single hits at the end. It's like a bada, da da da. It's like a more syncopated, I guess would be the word.
Yeah, Vinny. It was interesting. He would play these fills sometimes that were like, whoa, and they were unorthodox, but they would get left, because they were kind of cool. And that is kind of what made, especially our early recordings, jarring. They were kind of, frenetic, I call them, just kind of, whoa, they're kind of, knee-jerk reactions of a way to play drums. And that fill's definitely one of those.
After this, Chris, we get into the bridge. Now the magic really starts to happen because it starts with no drums at all. What we get are some horns kind of hanging out over top of what at first is a repeated bass line before it starts sort of rising, note-wise starts rising. And the whole song kind of takes a big breath right here. Feedback emerges from behind the horns and just adds ambiance to this whole part. Don't you think this part's so cool?
This part's great. Yeah, and that feedback part, this part I've always looked at it as a reset. You said a breath, a fresh breath. It's like, the bubble kind of bursts there. The bass is doing its thing. That guitar feedback is actually a feedback track. So the stereos were ringing out, and I would go in and actually get up against the cabinet with earplugs in and put the guitar head up against the cabinet and try to get some crazy feedback. I remember when Roger's mother first heard, I think it was this song. It was one of the ones we did a feedback track. I know we did one on Motto as well. Maybe it was that. But she had said to Roger, and this made me laugh so hard, she's like, there's this noise in the middle of the bridge. And it's like this high-pitched noise. Why'd you leave that in there? Yeah, we thought it was cool.
That's a good question. Why do we leave feedback? Because for me, it creates ambiance. It creates a little bit of magic or something. And also it makes you feel like you're at a live rock show.
Yeah, it's if you're going to look at it as a painting, it's another color, and it's an odd color, and it's a weird color, but it's cool.
It's so funny you say that, Chris. Yesterday I saw it was just like a meme yesterday where someone said art, like visual art, painting or whatever, is how we decorate space, but music is how we decorate time.
Yeah, that's a really, really good analogy, and that's why it's so cool to take. There's certain bands that can have these glorious, huge productions, and then the singer can go and sit in a dusty, smoky bar in the corner and play it just an acoustic guitar, and it works and it resonates. And there's other bands you try to do the same thing and it doesn't work.
Right. I just thought that was like an interesting way to look at like why, why music is art. It's so interesting. Halfway through this bridge, we get a 4 count on the hat, and then the fast-paced drum beat comes in, and a very low trombone note holds out under your vocals. And then there's other horn accompaniments and melodies that kick in halfway through. This is like the chill-inducing part.
When I think of how I'm feeling right now, somehow I still remember how I felt 4 years ago. And when I think of how things are right now, it's the same old song from years ago. I know this place will chill you.
When I think of how I'm feeling right now, somehow I still remember how I felt 4 years ago. And when I think of how things are right now, it's the same old song from years ago. And a lyrical question I have for you, Chris. Why 4 years ago? At this point in your lives, was 4 years a long time ago?
Oh yeah, 4 years was decades.
Yeah.
At that age. When you're 20 years old, 4 years is 1/5 of your life.
I know. Yeah.
So you think of it in terms of that, and going back to that lyric of the the same old song from years ago. It's the broken record. It's the broken record. I've heard this same spiel. And yeah, 4 years was a lifetime at this age.
It's funny about this lyrically. At this point in the song, I pictured, you say earlier that it's time to leave. I picture at this point in the song, you've got up and left, but you have the harsh realization that even though you left this place, you're still the same person, that the place hasn't left you, and that maybe the town wasn't the problem.
Yeah, and that's a cool way to look at it. And I know that there's fans, because I did it, that sat in their bedrooms reading those lyric sheets, and their brain took them to places like that. And that's what's great about songs. We all have our interpretations, and here I am, almost 30 years later, or giving my interpretation of what I still think these lyrics are. I didn't write them. And Vinny had a great way of putting words together. However, he'd probably be the first person to tell you this. If he was sitting right here right now, I don't know if he'd be able to elaborate on these any better than we are, because he was in the bubble too.
I just kind of took away from it, if I was putting myself in your shoes, that you were in this town and it's the same old song and dance. And now you've gone out, seen the world, toured. You're not stuck in that town anymore, but you think about how things are right now, and it's still the same old song and dance. When maybe it's when you get back home, or it's just what you're experiencing on the road interpersonally with people, or whatever. It's the same old stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And if you go to the next record, not to hop too far ahead, but the first lyric on the next record is "There's been borders and there's been boundaries," on Borders and Boundaries, the song Magnetic North. And that was directly talking about what you just said. I mean, we were going through borders and boundaries and airports and touring the world at that point. Now they were creeping into the lyrics. So definitely during this point, it was like, yeah, we'd go on the road. we'd be out for 6 months. We'd come back to Gainesville, and it was like time just stopped with a lot of those same people.
At this point in the song, Chris, this is where on the original demo, we get this extension. After you say it's the same old song from years ago, you're kind of vamping on that line. You're like, what do I know? What do I know? Yep. Like, it kind of feels like you just got in there and kind of ad-libbed the melodies at that part because the part was extended. I like it, to be honest. Like, when it wasn't there on the Hello Rockview part, I was like, oh man, I think there was something fun about singing along to some of those melodies that you did at that point.
Yeah, I think the problem with it was there was no lyrics. It was just, and I know, over and over again. And did we need any more content lyrically in the song? I don't think we did, but we certainly didn't need me to repeat and I don't know, or whatever the lyric was, 6 or 7 times. However, I do agree that from a fan listener standpoint, that wow, I could see liking that part, and that plays into why we did it that way to begin with.
Now it makes sense to me that if there was any fat to be cut on this song, it would be that. But I think me from all those years ago wanted to live in that moment a little bit longer.
And I get that.
Yeah. But anyway, after this part, we get some big guitar slides and a big snare fill that leads to a big stop before we get to chorus 3. And this time, we don't get that floating feeling of a chorus. Now it's an aggressive chorus. And this chorus does have a lyric difference.
I know this place will chew you up, spit you out before you go. I know. And when they drag you kicking, get screaming from the scene, you know there's time to go. There's time to go.
I know this place will chew you up, spit you out before you go. I know. And when they drag you kicking and screaming from the scene, you know that it's time to go. So now we get the I know. And then we get the it's time to go that's held out, where we get the only harmony in the song. And if I want to defend there not being harmonies earlier in the song, this is such a good harmony. This is such a payoff that it almost makes it, even though I'm like, why the hell aren't these harmonies here? They sound great earlier in the song. Waiting for it is almost like maybe creates even more of a moment when Roger's voice comes in and you guys harmonize on that.
I think it's really impactful. That's a great point. I never thought about it like that. And when I say I know, there's a real snottiness to it in my delivery, and
I love it.
And that was on purpose because it's like it's a broken record. I know. Just get away from me. Stop. And that's kind of the sentiment of how I sang that. And then to get the rhyme, I know you want that. It's time to go because. Right. I don't think we had this conversation, but it would have been that it's time to leave.
Yeah.
That's a little harder to say. That it's time to go, a little more triumphant.
Go was right. And, the first 2 choruses were very, very similar. This one, musically, it's different, but also, we're bringing it home here. This is different. This is the payoff. And man, it's just such a triumphant ending to this song. It really is like, it's just moment after moment, chill. And I think that's why I love this song so much is it continues to me to build and build. And there's parts of these songs, these moments in this song I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for that moment where we get that breath in the bridge and it builds up. Now I'm waiting for this. If I'm singing along, I'm singing along to Roger's part, or if you're in the car with your friends, one of you guys is Chris, one of you guys is Roger, and you sing that together. And it's just, it's a moment, man. It's a true special moment.
Well, and then, I didn't listen to this song. I wanted to come in here like most of our guests do. I haven't listened to my own song in 15 years. But if I'm thinking about this correctly, because the chord progression, this is the third chord progression. It does change in this song. I guess this would be considered almost like a coda, this ending part.
Oh, I really paid attention to this song, and I'm sorry I'm not bringing it up till now. I really didn't pay much attention to like chord progressions.
Well, we would do things like that. We would cap songs, and I just talked about Magnetic North from the next record. That's another song that did this. We would have these endings that were just these kind of rocking endings that would put an end cap on the song that had nothing to do with the rest of the tune.
Uh-huh. Hey, I have one more question before we get into the very end of this song. When you're singing I Know, there is a 2-second sort of rising sound in the mix. I can't tell if it's a horn or if it's feedback, or it's probably not, judging by what you said. I thought maybe it was even like a high vocal back there or something. Regardless, it's very cool. I just couldn't tell what it is.
Before you go, I know, and when they
Do you even know what I'm talking about?
I don't. And in fact, a lot of times when I hear things like that in recordings, and I have recordings that I hear things in from tons of my favorite bands over the years. And I chalk it up to like delays. It was a delay on the horn or delay on the vocal that like is slapping and hitting off another instrument a certain way, and it's making you hear an overtone or something. That's what I think that is.
Okay. So anyway, we go to the outro here. And at the end, when you guys are holding out the time to go line, Roger comes in, turns into a harmony that leads to the outro. Yeah, I don't know if coda's the right word, but it does really put a cap on the song. It's kind of like, even the way it ends, it's not like a held out note or something. It is a very definitive ending. It's kind of like putting the cap on the toothpaste at the end.
It is. It's a dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
It's a stamp of this is the end of the song. Yeah. I don't know if I would necessarily call this a coda either, but we were definitely doing this. We were putting these end cap pieces on songs then as a wrap up, like a jam at the end. And I think in this particular instance, it worked out pretty cool.
Very concise ending final note. And I think just talking to you, Chris, I think maybe in my studying and listening to this song a whole bunch of times in preparation for this episode, I was thinking to myself, like, why is this my favorite Less Than Jake song? They have so many good songs. What is it about this song? Is it just my nostalgia for listening on the old record player and then experiencing it on, this amazing recording at that moment and being such a fan? But I think I answered my own question, or you helped me arrive at it. There are several special moments in this song that pull at my heartstrings. From a lyrical perspective, you guys, I mean, you have your love songs here and there, but you weren't really a love songs band. You were more like a beyond that life songs sort of band. And this one, it just remains special to me. And I think it's just those moments that give me chills in this song.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you for breaking it down. I appreciate you going through it. It's nice to sit in this seat versus your seat.
Did I do a good job playing the Chris DeMakes in this song? Were there things in this song that you would have pulled from it that I didn't?
No, I think everything is there. Did this song start out with the sample though? Was this Everyone to the Bar and then it started?
No. Everyone to the Bar is Cheese.
That's Cheese. Okay. Well, there was nothing for this one, right?
No, this is just the drum beat at the beginning.
Okay, there you go. There's nothing that you left out. And I will leave everyone with this. I'd mentioned it was my dad's favorite song. He would get pissed when we wouldn't play this. Like, you didn't play Farcas. Like, get angry about it. So it was Warped Tour 2011. We were in Orlando, and my cousins, a bunch of family. Remember my brother was in town, and a bunch of his friends. And Dad starts drinking early that day and got hammered. Of course, we played Farcas because he wanted to hear it. And we get off stage and he's screaming at, we didn't play my song. I'm like, Dad, we played it, So, he was always wanting to hear that song. And I would like to think that all the things you said, it hit him that way. And that's why he loved it.
I was going to ask you, did he ever say why? You guys had hundreds of songs. Did he ever, bring up he was musical, so was there something about
we never talked about anything beyond the fact that he loved the song. It got him going. It did something. It fired him up in a certain way as songs do. But thanks, Chris, for taking me down a trip down memory lane. I appreciate it.
I love it, Chris. Hey, before we'll do a quick wrap up at the end, but do you want to throw it to a band you might not know for this week?
Absolutely. Hey, check this out.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Chris DeMakes A Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Northroot, a 4-piece, self-proclaimed sad rock band from the Syracuse, New York area, consisting of Jared Kennedy and Pete Bingle sharing vocal and guitar duties, Andrew Bartlett on bass, and Corey Barkley on drums. Northroot aims to create honest, emotional rock music and let people know that no matter what they're going through, they don't have to go through it alone. Here's a snippet of their song, Peaks. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for listening this week. Thank you, Chris, again, for being a wonderful host. And if you haven't already, check out our Patreon over at chrisdemakes.com. That's right. You can go over there and you can help support the podcast you know and love. We get bonus episodes of the After Party each week with Chris and I and all kinds of other stuff. chrisdemakes.com. And I guess you have to say goodbye to the guests now, right? That's me.
I do have to say goodbye to the guests. I also want to mention, if you're a member of our Patreon, you might be watching the video right now. But for those who are just listening, I'm wearing a Hello Rockview shirt right now, and I was wondering, it's not cool to wear the shirt of the band to the show when you're going to see them, but is it okay to wear the shirt of the band that you're doing a podcast with the guitarist from? Is that okay?
I'm going to say yes. If anybody has a problem with that, then they can go hang out with Scott Farcas.
That's right. And I want to thank this week's guest, Chris DeMakes of Less Than Jake. And we'll see you all next week.
Hey, friends. Have you been loving Chris DeMakes A Podcast? Well, spread the love by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't hesitate to share what you enjoy about the show in an actual written review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does it help more people discover us, but we often read reviews in the wrap segment of the show. It's a quick, cost-free way to support us and takes just a minute of your time. Your reviews mean the world to us and help us keep the podcast thriving. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for being a friend.